Heart-wrenching sobs echoed through the air vent, yanking me from sleep in the dead of night in our family's chilly mansion on the outskirts of Chicago. I'm Emily Thompson, 14, pressing my ear to the rusty grate, heart pounding as it hits me. Someone's trapped in the basement. A horrifying family secret, buried beneath fake smiles, is about to shatter everything I've ever believed. Our 3-story mansion, with its granite walls and stained glass windows, has always been the pride of the Thompson clan. But that night, as faint moonlight slipped through my window, I realized the old vent in my bedroom connected to what my family called the safe room below. Moans, pleas, and the clank of metal sent ice through my veins. Who's down there? And why has no one, my dad, my grandma, or my uncles, ever mentioned this room? I crawled closer to the floor, hands trembling as they grazed the vent, straining to hear. "Please, let me out." A faint, choked voice, strangled by despair. I wanted to scream, to run to Mom, but a memory flashed. Grandma Margaret leading me down the hallway, pointing to the steel door under the stairs and saying, "That's where we keep the family's peace." Peace? How could a place filled with cries be peaceful? My mind spun, but my gut screamed, if I don't act, this secret will swallow me whole, just like it has whoever's down there. That night, I swore to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing my family, the people I love, but now I'm not sure they're my family at all. That night, after hearing the cries from the vent, I couldn't sleep. The Thompson family mansion on Chicago's outskirts, once my safe haven, now felt like a massive prison hiding a horrific secret beneath its polished surface. I'm Emily Thompson, just 14, but fear mixed with curiosity drove me to dig deeper into the truth. My family, so proud of our prestigious lineage, had upheld a brutal tradition for decades. They called it the peace solution, a fancy name for an unforgivable crime. My grandfather, Charles Thompson, started it. In 1958, he built a secret basement under the mansion, a soundproof room with thick concrete walls and a steel door locked by a code. He called it the place to keep the family's peace. His idea, passed down through 3 generations, was chilling. Every generation, a 16-year-old girl from our family would be chosen to live in the basement. She'd become the sacrifice, a target for every family member to unleash their rage, from sudden outbursts to sick nightmares. The girl would wear a titanium shackle locked around her ankle, never leaving the basement's darkness until she died or broke completely. The men in our family were trained from childhood to accept this tradition as part of the Thompson identity. My dad, James, my uncles, and my cousins grew up with basement keys in hand, taught that beating the girl down there protected the other women in the family. They learned from Grandpa how to hit hard without leaving marks, how to channel their anger so it only erupted in that room. But the women weren't innocent either. Grandma Margaret, with her icy smile, picked the victims. My mom, Helen, prepared solemn rituals where the girl was given the titanium shackle as an honor. Yet my aunts brought food to the basement, whispering to us kids that this was a sacred duty. They believed, or convinced themselves, that without the basement, violence would spill over the whole family, uncontrollable. I grew up hearing whispers about the basement, but it wasn't until that night's cries that I grasped the awful truth. My family didn't just accept this tradition, they were proud of it. Grandma once showed me her notebooks, where she meticulously recorded each chosen girl's name, how long they served, even performance reviews based on how well they endured. Those pages, with her neat handwriting, made my skin crawl. How could a family turn a crime into a system, a ritual run like a business? But what chilled me most was Grandma's eyes when she talked about the peace solution. the eyes of someone convinced they were doing the right thing. And I knew if I didn't act, one day it could be me or my cousins, like Lily or Sarah, locked in that darkness next. The cries from the vent haunted me, a warning that the Thompson family mansion on Chicago's outskirts was no safe haven. I'm Emily Thompson, only 14, but the truth about my family's brutal tradition, the peace solution, stabbed my heart. The secret basement, where a girl was caged to endure violence, wasn't just a distant story. It became real when I saw my cousin Clara taken down there, shattering every illusion I had about my family. It was Clara's 16th birthday, a day that should have been filled with smiles and cake. Instead, the family gathered in the grand living room, the chandelier's glow casting light on stern faces. Grandma Margaret, in a black silk dress with her chilling smile, stood at the center, holding a silver box. Inside was the titanium shackle, the symbol of captivity. As she opened it, the room erupted in measured applause, like a well-rehearsed ritual. Clara, her blonde hair tied high, eyes wide with confusion, stepped forward. Her parents, Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda, stood beside her, unflinching as they handed their daughter to Grandma. They offered her up like a sacrifice, and the room's eerie silence felt complicit. I stood in the corner, heart racing, wanting to scream, but frozen in place. When the titanium shackle locked around Clara's ankle, the metallic click echoed like a death sentence. Grandma declared, "Clara, you're the family's new keeper of peace." Those words, spoken with solemn pride, twisted my stomach. Clara was led downstairs through the steel door and vanished with the lock's clank. The family carried on with the party, as if they'd just completed a sacred rite. But I saw Clara's eyes before she disappeared. Not honor, but raw terror. That night, I snuck into Grandma's study, where she kept her notebooks. Under the dim desk lamp, I opened one. Pages filled with meticulous handwriting listed the girls before Clara, their service durations, and sickening notes on their endurance. Grandma wrote about them like property, with a collector's pride. One line chilled me. Clara, 16, shows great promise. I slammed the notebook shut, nausea rising. How could my family, people I loved, turn a person into a tool for their rage? Then I thought of my cousins Lily and Sarah, innocent girls just a few years from 16. If no one stopped this, they'd be next. That's when I knew I couldn't stay silent. The truth about the basement wasn't just a crime. It was a curse, and I had to break it. After seeing my cousin Clara taken to the basement, I, Emily Thompson, couldn't see my family the same way. The mansion on Chicago's outskirts, with its cold granite walls, now felt like a maze hiding a crime. I'm only 14, but Clara's desperate cries from the vent and her hopeless eyes are burned into my mind. I knew I had to act, even though my heart trembled with fear. If I didn't, my family's brutal tradition, the so-called peace solution, would destroy those I love, like my cousins Lily and Sarah. One afternoon, while the family was busy preparing dinner, I snuck into the attic, where old vents snaked along the ceiling. I'd heard cries from my bedroom, but now I needed proof. With a small flashlight, I crawled through dust and cobwebs, tracing the vent to the basement. Pressing my ear to the rusty grate, I heard Clara, not crying now, but pleading. "Please, I can't take it anymore." Her voice was faint, broken by sobs. Then came heavy footsteps, the clank of a lock, and my dad, James, his voice ice cold. "You know the rules. This is your duty." I covered my mouth to keep from screaming, tears streaming down. Clara wasn't just caged, she was being tortured, and my family was to blame. I decided to document everything. Using an old phone hidden in a toy box, I started recording every night when Clara's cries echoed through the vent. I learned to move silently, crawling through the attic to place the phone near the grate. Some nights, I heard Clara's muffled screams, the thud of objects, and Uncle Robert's laughter, each recording cut like a knife. But I didn't stop. Over 9 months, I collected hundreds of clips, from Clara's pleas to family talks about her performance. I stored them on a USB hidden under my floorboards. But I knew I couldn't do it alone. I secretly told my cousins Lily, 10, and Sarah, 12, two girls who'd grown suspicious when Clara vanished. Under the oak tree in the yard, I shared the truth. Lily, with her big round eyes, gripped my hand, trembling. Sarah, bolder, nodded and said, "We have to save her." We made a plan. Lily, small and nimble, slipped through tight gaps to snap photos of Clara's bruises through the basement door's crack. Sarah learned to blur the images to protect identities, hiding them on her dad's old computer. We even managed to drop bandages and painkillers through the vent, though they were just scraps of hope for Clara. Every day, I lived in fear of being caught. Grandma Margaret seemed to always watch, her eyes sharp as knives. But every night, when Clara whispered thanks through the vent for the little help we sent, I knew I couldn't turn back. We were building a case not just to save Clara, but to end this sick tradition. I whispered to Lily and Sarah, "We'll make them pay." In their eyes, I saw the same fire of resolve, even though we all knew the cost could be our own lives. 9 months of gathering evidence transformed me, Emily Thompson, from a scared girl into someone ready to confront my entire family. The mansion on Chicago's outskirts, hiding a brutal basement, was no longer home. It was a battlefield. With my cousins Lily and Sarah, we recorded Clara's cries, her bruised body, and my family's sick boasts about the peace solution. We knew we'd get one shot to expose the truth, and it came at the Thompson clan's 50th anniversary gala, a night meant to celebrate their crimes. The grand dining room glittered under a crystal chandelier. The table, draped in white silk, sparkled with wine glasses, but the air felt like a funeral parlor. Grandma Margaret, in a deep red dress, stood and tapped her glass, declaring, 50 years of peace thanks to girls like Clara." The room applauded, but I saw Mom's empty stare and Dad's forced smile. Clutching the USB in my pocket, my heart pounded. It was time. Lily, with her innocent look, slipped into the tech room, plugging the USB into the hidden sound system used for parties. Sarah, near the main door, stood ready to block any escape. I stood, pretending to raise a toast, but instead nodded to Lily. Suddenly, Clara's cries blasted through the speakers, tearing the silence. "Please, no more hitting." Her pleas mixed with thuds and Dad's voice barking, "Shut up, you know the rules." The room froze. Then the big screen, meant for family photos, lit up with images. Clara's battered body, the titanium shackle locked around her ankle. Chaos erupted. Dad lunged, smashing a speaker, yelling, "Who did this?" Grandma Margaret pointed at me, snarling, "Traitor, you're ruining this family." Uncle Robert shoved the table, wine glasses shattering on the floor. My cousins tried to bolt, but Sarah, small but fierce, locked the main door, shouting, "No one's leaving!" I stood in the storm, voice shaking but firm. "It's all been sent to the cops. Your game's over." Lily, tears streaming, kept the system running, letting the evidence play. Recordings of Dad laughing as he beat Clara, Grandma rating her performance. Then police sirens wailed outside. Sarah had called 911 when the speakers started, and patrol cars flooded the driveway. The family panicked. Mom grabbed my arm, whispering, "You don't know what you've done, Emily." I yanked free, staring into Grandma's eyes, still defiant like a statue. "I know," I said. "I know you're monsters." Cops stormed in, cuffing Dad, Uncle Robert, and a few cousins. Grandma was led out, her gaze still razor sharp. Clara, brought up from the basement, nearly collapsed, her face pale but her eyes flickering with hope. For a moment, I thought we'd won. But as the police lights faded, I heard Grandma whisper to her lawyer, "Call Carter, he'll handle it." I didn't know who Carter was, but his name sent a chill down my spine. Our fight, it turned out, had only just begun. After the gala showdown, I, Emily Thompson, thought I'd broken my family's brutal tradition. Clara's bruised images, her cries blasting through speakers, and cops cuffing my dad, James, and Grandma Margaret made me believe justice was near. But in a Chicago courtroom, that hope shattered like wine glasses on the Thompson mansion floor. I stood there, clutching Lily and Sarah's hands as Judge Carter, eyes cold as steel, banged his gavel. Case dismissed. No reason, no explanation, just one sentence wiping out 9 months of our evidence. As Carter stood, his sleeve slipped, revealing a glinting titanium band, identical to the ones my dad and Grandpa Charles wore. My heart sank. Clara, just brought from the hospital to testify, collapsed in her chair, whispering, "They'll never stop." Outside the courtroom, my family huddled, hugging their lawyer and laughing like they'd won a game. That night, I saw them post photos online, celebrating at a fancy Italian restaurant, Grandpa Charles toasting with Judge Carter, captioned, "Family stand strong." Carter's smile in the photo next to his titanium band was a warning. We'd touched something bigger than our family. The next day, Clara was hospitalized again. Doctors said she had severe PTSD, her blood pressure spiking after the trial. I sat by her bed, holding her hand, but Clara just stared at the ceiling, muttering, "They'll get revenge." I shouldn't have spoken. I wanted to comfort her, but fear choked me too. That morning, I got an anonymous letter, handwritten, "Stay quiet, or you'll end up like Clara." That night, my bank account was frozen for suspected fraud. When I called, they apologized, saying it'd take weeks to investigate. I checked my phone, a text from an unknown number. "You thought you won, but you just made things worse." Lily and Sarah weren't spared. Sarah's parents grounded her, confiscated her phone, and said she needed to relearn family loyalty. Lily, only 10, cried over the phone, saying Grandma Margaret visited and whispered she'd be useful someday. I tried to reassure them, but my voice shook. My family didn't just escape justice, they were tightening the noose. One night, I found a photo slipped under my door. Clara, in the hospital, shot from outside her window with the words, "You're next." I realized the Thompsons weren't acting alone. Judge Carter wasn't a fluke. He was part of a network shielded by titanium bands and secret oaths. I dug through the USB evidence, finding a recording of Grandma mentioning Carter and a family fund. And I hacked Dad's old computer, accessing his emails, and found monthly transfers, tens of thousands of dollars, from Grandpa's company to Carter Financial Consulting, spanning decades. Carter wasn't just a judge, he was their guy. And I wondered how many others were protecting the peace solution. Rage burned in me, but I knew winning meant more than evidence. I needed allies and a plan to take down an entire system. The failed trial and Judge Carter's titanium band opened my eyes, Emily Thompson, to a terrifying truth. My family wasn't just a lone group of monsters. The mansion on Chicago's outskirts, hiding a brutal basement, was only a piece of a larger criminal network spanning Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. At 14, I felt like I was facing a giant beast, but the anger and fear for Clara, Lily, and Sarah drove me to dig deeper, each step like walking on a razor's edge. I started with the transfers from Grandpa Charles's company to Carter Financial Consulting, tens of thousands monthly, clockwork, for 15 years. Hacking Dad's emails, I found encrypted messages about a family alliance and protection fund. One email chilled me. Grandpa wrote to Carter, "Thanks for handling the 2018 case. The Wilson basement stays secure." The Wilsons. I remembered them. Distant relatives from Wisconsin, guests at Thompson galas. Research revealed their mansion had a safe room, too, and a young girl vanished 3 years ago. I connected the dots. Not just my family, but dozens of others linked by marriage and business were running these basements. I needed help, and fate led me to Daniel Hayes, a retired private detective an hour from Chicago. I found him through an old article on covered-up cases. Knocking on his door with my USB and papers, Daniel, gray hair, sharp eyes, listened without blinking. He pulled out dusty case files, showing me, over 20 years, he'd investigated 10 similar cases, all tied to wealthy families with special rooms and missing girls. Each was dismissed by judges like Carter, records sealed. He pointed to a photo, Carter at a charity event with Grandpa, both wearing titanium bands. "This isn't a family," Daniel said. "It's a syndicate." But the network fought back. One night, my rented apartment was broken into. Nothing stolen, just a photo of Clara in the hospital left on my table, scrawled with "Silence or die." The next morning, my part-time job fired me over anonymous complaints about my attitude. My bank account stayed frozen, and I got an email from my school. My scholarship was under review for ethical issues. I knew my family was behind it, but what shook me was an email from an unknown address. "We saw Lily at the park yesterday. Cute kid, but vulnerable." Lily, my 10-year-old cousin, was being watched. Daniel and I dug deeper, uncovering 20 families tied through shell companies, arranged marriages, and secret funds. Each had a safe room, a captive girl, and a local official, like Carter, shielding them. I found a photo of Carter at my cousin's wedding, wearing a titanium band reserved for insiders. Another document showed Carter had dismissed 3 similar cases in 10 years, all linked to these families. I realized, to topple this network, I didn't just need evidence. I needed survivors willing to stand up, even if it cost them their lives. The criminal network spanning 3 states showed me, Emily Thompson, that my family was just a cog in a brutal machine. The Chicago mansion where Clara was caged in the basement wasn't unique. With Daniel Hayes, a retired PI, I had evidence of 20 linked families, payments to Judge Carter, and buried cases. But paper proof wasn't enough to topple a system guarded by power and money. I needed survivors, victims who'd escaped the darkness, ready to speak. And so I found them. Women scarred like Clara, carrying pain I'd only begun to grasp. Daniel used old contacts to track down 4 victims from other families. Rachel, 34, from Wisconsin. Mia, 29, from Indiana. Lauren, 42, from Illinois. And Anna, 27, who escaped her family 2 years ago. We met at a small diner in a nearby town where no one knew us. I spotted them instantly, not by looks but by their eyes, sharp, wary, always ready to bolt. Rachel arrived first, hands trembling as she set down her coffee, pulling up her sleeve to reveal a scar circling her wrist from a shackle in her family's discipline room. Mia, soft-spoken but steady, described the basement under her uncle's house, where she was held from 16 to 19. Lauren, the oldest, brought faded photos, other girls from her family who never got out. Anna, still terrified, whispered, "I thought I'd die in there." Around a scratched wooden table, we shared stories no one wanted to hear. Rachel told of trying to report to the police, only to be sent back because the local judge knew her dad. Mia showed me her journal from the basement, pages stained with blood and tears. Lauren, calm but cutting, listed 12 families she knew, all with basements, tied to mine through marriages or deals. Anna, despite her fear, handed over a USB with recordings she'd secretly made, her grandfather discussing with Carter a case to bury. Each story, each piece of evidence was a brick in the wall of justice we needed. Daniel guided us to draft a report for the FBI, bypassing Carter's local reach. In his cramped apartment, we worked through the night. Rachel wrote a detailed affidavit of her kidnapping and torture, listing dates and perpetrators. Mia provided a map of her family's basement, matching my family's design. Lauren traced the protection fund through shell companies. Anna, trembling, signed her statement saying, "If I don't, I'll never forgive myself." I added Clara's recordings, Lily's photos, and Grandpa Charles's emails. Our report, over 200 pages, was an indictment not just of my family, but the entire network, charges of kidnapping, torture, and federal conspiracy. When we finished, Rachel squeezed my hand, saying, "We're not just saving Clara or Anna. We're saving the girls who haven't been chosen yet." Her words warmed my heart, but danger loomed. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Don't think the FBI will save you." But looking around the table at Rachel, Mia, Lauren, and Anna's resolute eyes, I knew we weren't alone. We were an alliance, and this time, we wouldn't fail. My alliance with survivors, Rachel, Mia, Lauren, and Anna, gave me, Emily Thompson, faith we could topple my family's criminal network and their allies like Judge Carter. Our FBI report, packed with hundreds of pages on kidnappings and torture, was our strongest weapon. But just when I thought justice was near, a blow from those I loved most rocked me. The Chicago mansion, where all the pain began, wasn't just a memory. It was a battleground of loyalty and betrayal. One morning, I opened my phone to a viral social media video. It was Sarah, my 12-year-old cousin, who'd helped Lily and me gather evidence to save Clara. In the clip, Sarah sat in Grandma Margaret's familiar room, eyes red, voice trembling. "Emily lied," she said, staring into the camera. "She made up stories about our family for attention. No basement, no violence. She's just jealous." The video ended with Sarah's head bowed and comments exploded. "Liar! She's tearing her family apart." My heart tore open. Sarah, who'd locked the door for the cops, had turned on me, or so the world thought. But I knew Sarah too well. Her eyes in the video weren't a traitor's. They were a plea for help, the look of someone coerced. I called Lily, but her mom, Aunt Linda, answered coldly. "Don't contact my daughter again, Emily. You've caused enough trouble." I drove to Sarah's house, but her parents blocked me. Through the window, I saw Sarah in the living room. Her wrist gripped by Uncle Robert. I texted Daniel Hayes, spilling everything. He replied instantly, "They're using Sarah to discredit you. Check if she's safe." That night, I snuck into Sarah's backyard, climbing the fence like we used to for playtime. Through her bedroom window, I saw her curled up, sobbing. I tapped the glass and she jumped, then ran to open it. "I'm so sorry, Emily." Sarah wept, hugging me tight. "Grandma made me film it. They said if I didn't, they'd lock me in the basement like Clara." I held her close, fighting tears. She said Grandma Margaret had kept her locked in the house for 3 days, starved her, and forced her to memorize a script for the video. They threatened to send Lily, only 10, to the basement if she didn't comply. I snapped photos of the bruises on Sarah's arms, recorded her story, and sent them to Daniel. He said, "This is new evidence. They're panicking, turning on their own, but it means Sarah's in danger. I took Sarah to a trusted friend's house, telling her to contact only me or Daniel. But back at my apartment, a text from an unknown number chilled me. "Think you saved Sarah? She's ours." Attached was a photo of Sarah in the garden, taken hours earlier. They were watching. Sarah's betrayal, though fake, turned the public against me. Articles branded me a delusional liar. But Sarah's pleading eyes and bruised arms reminded me I wasn't alone. I had to save Sarah, Lily, and Clara, not just from our family, but from the network tightening its grip. I knew the next step would be riskier than ever, but I had no choice. Sarah's forced betrayal pinned me, Emily Thompson, against the wall. Her viral video accusing me of lying spread across Chicago, turning the public against me, branding me a family wrecker. But Sarah's pleading eyes and bruised arms reignited my fire. I knew my family and their 3-state criminal network were tightening the noose. When Daniel Hayes confirmed Sarah was confined in Grandma Margaret's house, and worse, the 10-year-old now wore a titanium band, marking her as the next basement victim, I knew time was running out. I had to act, even if it cost my life. That night, Daniel and I planned. The FBI, after our report, was watching my family, but needed direct evidence for immediate action. I decided to live stream everything, exposing the Thompsons' peace solution to the world. Phone in hand, I snuck into the mansion's garden at midnight, where basement light leaked through a crack below ground. Daniel waited at the gate, ready to call the FBI if things spiraled. I used bolt cutters, skills from sneaking Clara painkillers, to snap the back door's lock. When it clicked open, the damp concrete smell and familiar dread hit me. In the basement, Sarah huddled in a corner, the titanium band glinting around her ankle. She looked up, eyes red but brightening when she saw me. "Emily," she whispered, voice choked. I knelt, started the live stream, and propped the phone on a shelf to capture everything. "The world's watching, Sarah," I said, hands shaking as I unlocked her band. The camera caught it all, the soundproof room, Sarah's bruises, her terrified eyes. Views surged, 100,000, then 1 million, then 5 million in minutes. Comments flooded. "Save her." "Is this real?" But heavy footsteps thundered from the stairs. My dad, James, appeared, followed by Uncle Robert and Grandpa Charles. "You dare come back!" Dad roared, lunging. I shoved Sarah behind me, holding the phone like a shield. "Millions are watching," I yelled. "You can't hide anymore." Robert tried to grab it, but I dodged and it fell, still recording. Sarah screamed as Grandma Margaret descended, basement key in hand, face twisted with rage. "You're destroying this family, Emily," she snarled. "Sarah will pay for you." Chaos exploded. I shielded Sarah, backing into a corner as my family charged. Suddenly, sirens wailed outside. Daniel, at the stairs, shouted, "FBI, drop your weapons." Chandelier light from the living room spilled down, revealing armored agents, guns aimed at my family. "We're watching the live stream," the FBI commander barked, voice like steel. "Everyone freeze!" Dad collapsed, hands trembling. Grandma tried to run but was cuffed on the spot. Grandpa Charles just stared, eyes cold. "You'll regret this." Sarah clung to me, sobbing, as the FBI photographed the basement, seizing the titanium band and torture tools. The live stream hit 10 million views, public pressure forcing the FBI to act fast. As they led my family away, I saw Clara, brought by Daniel from the hospital, at the basement door. She nodded, tears streaming. We'd saved Sarah, but I knew the fight wasn't over. The network was still out there, and I'd become its biggest target. The live stream rescuing Sarah exposed the Thompsons' horrors to millions, spurring the FBI to cuff those behind the Chicago mansion's basement. I, Emily Thompson, thought we'd won. that Clara and Sarah were safe. But days later, a chilling discovery showed the criminal network wasn't just vast, it spanned generations, a curse that wouldn't break. A letter from my jailed Grandpa Charles plunged me into my deepest fear. After raiding the mansion, the FBI found a hidden sub-basement behind a fake wall in the main one. Breaking through the concrete, a rotting stench poured out. Inside were 10 skeletons, girls, some just bones, dating back to the 1950s. DNA tests later confirmed they were peace solution victims, never freed. Some still wore rusted titanium bands, proof of decades-long crimes. The news exploded globally, headlines screaming mass grave under elite mansion and Thompson family curse. The public reeled, and I, caught in the storm, felt pain and rage. Those girls, erased by my family, were finally found. Too late. Then the letter came, a white envelope from federal prison in Grandpa Charles's rigid handwriting. I opened it, hands shaking, in my cramped apartment filled with Daniel Hayes's case files, his words cut like knives. Emily, you think you stopped us, but the tradition lives on. You only made it stronger. A new basement's being built, and this time, no one will find it. The final line froze me. See you soon, granddaughter. Tucked inside was a 1960s photo. A younger grandpa beside a shackled girl in the basement, her eyes mirroring Clara's. I threw the letter down, heart pounding. Grandpa wasn't just the mastermind. He was the architect of a criminal legacy, believing it would outlive his cell. The global media hounded me, but I refused interviews. I sent the letter to Daniel, who contacted the FBI. They confirmed the network's families, though under scrutiny, were still operating covertly. Some had moved basements to other states, even overseas. Grandpa's words weren't an empty threat. They were a declaration of war. I looked at photos of Sarah and Lily, now in hiding, and wondered, had I saved them or just delayed their fate? Rage burned in me, but fear matched it. This network was a hydra. Cut one head, another grew, and I, a 14-year-old girl, had become its greatest enemy. The discovery of 10 skeletons in the sub-basement and Grandpa Charles's letter showed me, Emily Thompson, that the fight against my family's criminal network didn't end with Sarah's live stream rescue. The Chicago mansion, once a symbol of prestige, was sealed, but the brutal legacy of the peace solution still haunted me. Yet 6 months later, a federal trial brought the justice Clara, Sarah, Lily, and survivors like Rachel, Mia, Lauren, and Anna fought for. From my family's ashes, I found a new purpose, a life lesson to share with the world. The federal trial in downtown Chicago was a public reckoning. The FBI, armed with our live stream, report, and the basement bones, exposed not just the Thompsons, but 20 linked families across 3 states. Judge Carter and 5 other officials, from sheriffs to councilmen, got life sentences for complicity, cover-ups, and aiding the kidnapping torture network. Grandpa Charles, Grandma Margaret, my dad James, and Uncle Robert received 40 years to life. As the gavel fell, I sat beside Clara, her hand gripping mine. She whispered, "We did it, Emily." Sarah and Lily, now with vetted foster families, watched the trial via video, texting me, "You're our hero." But justice didn't erase the scars. Clara endured months of therapy, slowly rebuilding, though still startling at night. Sarah learned to laugh again, keeping a small notebook to face her basement nightmares. Lily, with her radiant smile, video called me weekly, showing drawings of Freedom Day. I, now 15, enrolled in community college for psychology, determined to help domestic violence victims. I founded a small nonprofit, Break the Chains, linking survivors like Rachel, Mia, Lauren, and Anna to legal and mental health resources. We host talks, sharing our stories so other girls know they're not alone. My lesson, one I want to share, is the power of breaking silence. My family and their network thrived because people feared judgment or retaliation. But when I spoke out, a 14-year-old with an old phone, I created ripples. Ripples that became a tsunami when Rachel, Mia, and others joined. Justice doesn't come free. It demands those who stand up, believing an unjust system can fall. Above all, it needs community. People like Daniel, like you watching this, who listen and act. Don't let fear lock you in your own basement. Speak out, find allies, and build a world where no girl wears a titanium band. I keep a photo on my desk, me, Sarah, and Lily outside the federal courthouse the day we testified, smiling through tears. It reminds me that, though the criminal network seemed invincible, we broke it, not with strength, but with truth and courage. If you see injustice, don't stay silent. Be the one to turn the key, because one person can change everything.